Hey guys, what's up? It's Miss Watson. Um, I apologize, I've not been in class the first 2 days of the semester. Obviously, I'm at home basking in all my sickness, but I hope to be back Thursday um, so we can talk about class and what some of our goals for class are this semester. I do want to say that even though I'm not there, it is really important that you get the work done that the sub is giving you. I'm getting reports that's not happening. So we'll address that when I get back. But I think we're going to do something different for Wednesday. And I'm going to show you guys how to do some basic things in Photoshop. So we'll see if you guys can hang with me on this one. What we're going to do is we're going to take a photo and we're going to make it into a cool looking poster. Um, so we're going to use a couple different tools in Photoshop. You can see I've got Photoshop open right now with my photo. And so we're going to go through and apply some basic steps to our picture so it starts to look like a poster. So for you guys, you should know I'm using a Mac computer at home. Obviously, we don't have Macs in the classroom. So you're going to have to go down to the Windows icon in the bottom left corner of your screen. And you're going to click on the list that says All Programs. And from that list, or in the search bar, you can type in Adobe Photoshop. And it should come up with two different Photoshop versions. One will say 64-bit and the other will say just Adobe Photoshop. It's a blue icon with PS in the middle. So you're going to open up the one that does not say 64-bit. And it may take a while to load on your computer because you haven't used it before. Now, the other thing I want to say is it's really important in class that you all log into your WinHome as soon as you log into the computer. Your WinHome is where you're going to save all your files for Photoshop. So if you've not yet done that, you want to go to the WinHome shortcut on your desktop, and you're going to log in using your student number, and your default password is usually TPS, all lowercase. That way you can save files once you're done editing them in Photoshop. Even if you are editing in Photoshop and you ran out of time, it's still important to save your files to your WinHome so you can pick up where you left off the next day. Alright, so we're going to work on this photo of Angela Davis. She's one of my favorite contributors to Black history. Some of you may know who she is, others of you may not. She's an activist and a professor. She was a former member of the Black Panther Party. She has a really great contribution to Black history. And so because this is Black History Month, one of the first projects we're going to do is make a poster for Black History Month. And we might just use Angela Davis's photo for this. So we're going to take this photo from here, and we're eventually going to end up with something similar to this. We may add more things to it later, but this is some basic things you can do within maybe half hour to an hour. All right. So for you guys, you're going to go to the class website, to Lincoln High School Photo and Graphic Design. And once you get there, you're going to go here to the Practice Photos for Photoshop tab. And I've already prepared the image for you, so that's one less confusing step I have to explain. And we'll go through this when I get back to class. But what you're going to do is click on the file, and it's going to open up down here in your download files bar, and you're just going to click on it, and it's going to open it up into Photoshop. So the file should look like this. You might notice that I took the background out of the picture. And again, to save time, I did it for you. It's something I'll show you guys how to do in class later on. So once we have our file open, actually, I just wanted to show you what this file looks like for now. We're going to go over and we're going to make a brand new file. And I'm going to close my files right now. And while I'm doing that, I should explain that the toolbar is on your left-hand side. These are most of the tools you're going to use for Photoshop. Over here are your panels, and each panel allows you to do different things in Photoshop. Down here you've got a couple other editing options as well. And your Photoshop menu at the top in the light gray bar, if you click on them, you'll see many other options. One that we're going to use today is the filter gallery, and we are going to use the quick selection tool and the magic wand tool. We're going to use our paint bucket tool, and if you notice, some of these squares have small white triangles in the corners. That means if you click and hold your mouse on that square, then you will see some other hidden tools there. So that's one good thing to know. We're going to use our color swatches down here at the bottom. And over here are some color swatches as well. One important thing to pay attention to is that here in the top right corner, you have your workstation set up to essentials. So if yours maybe was set to photography, you might want to change that. You can see as I change my different workstation options, it's going to let me view windows that I would need for that specific thing. Right now, we're just going to keep it at the default, which is essentials. All right, so we're going to create a new file. So we're going to go up here and we're going to click on File and New. And to the right, you'll see that Photoshop is really good about showing you the shortcut keys on your keyboard. Because I'm using a Mac, I have this funky flower symbol, which is my command key. But you all are using you're using a HP computer. So for you, it's going to be Control and O. So whatever this, I think it's this one right here. This is your control symbol. So you can do File New or Control N, whichever you prefer. And Photoshop is going to ask you what dimensions do you want to make your file. So we are going to create a poster, and we want to set our width at 10 inches wide. And if you click on this drop down here, you'll see different measurements. You want to make sure yours is set to inches. And height, we're going to make 13 inches. And our resolution for now, we're just going to make 72. So you've got a couple different options here. We're going to do 72 pixels per inch. Color mode, yours should be set to RGB. So I'm just going to go ahead and change mine because it was not set there. And then we're going to click OK. All right, so once we do that, it's going to open up a file with a transparent or a solid white background. Now, over here in the layers window, you'll see that the file we just created is its own layer. Photoshop works in many layers, so you can think of it like an onion. Every editing adjustment that you make is mostly going to be on its own layer. That way you can edit that specific thing without destroying the original image that you're working on. So on layer 1, I'm going to double click on the words, and that should allow me to rename the layer, and I'm just going to rename it background layer, and hit return. So with our background layer, what I want to do is I'm going to make that a solid color. And we can get to that in a second. So the next step, excuse me, and before I go forward, your move tool is a really important tool. This tool allows you to move images around, text around. It allows you to resize an image. It allows you to go pick a color. It allows you to click on your different layers. So usually when you've finished with one of these other editing tools, you want to go back to your move tool so that you can move things around. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to place our picture into our new document. So I'm going to go up to File, and you guys should have an option that just says Place. If you have one that says Place Embedded, you can choose that. Obviously on mine says Place Embedded, and that's because I'm using a different system. So either choose Place Embedded or Place. And we're going to go ahead and click on the image that you downloaded from the class website to select that, and we're going to choose Place at the bottom of that window. Now once I do that, it's going to place the image on top of my original document size, and you'll see what we call a transform box around our image. And you can see there's small handles here around the image. Now, this box allows you to resize your picture. And this is really, really important that most beginners don't pay a lot of attention to. You can drag any of these boxes around, but you can see as I do that, it is altering the dimensions of my picture. And usually you do not want to do that. That's not a good thing. You want to keep your dimensions the way that they are in most cases. So to avoid resizing your picture so that it doesn't warp the dimensions, what you're going to do is hold your Shift key down on your keyboard, and you're going to come over here to one of the corners of your transform box, and holding my Shift key down, I'm going to move my picture in and out. This is going to allow me to resize my picture without altering the dimensions of the photo, which is really, really important. So for right now, I'm going to keep it about the size that it is, and we're going to deal with this a little bit later. All right, so what we want to do is we can now see in our layers window, we have a layer called Angela Davis. That was the name of the file. I'm going to right click on this layer, and I'm going to go down to where it says Rasterize Layer. This will allow me to make some editing changes to my picture. So I'm going to go ahead and rasterize that. If for some reason you go to your rasterize layer option and it's grayed out like this, then that means your layer is already rasterized, so you don't have to worry about it. The next step we're going to do is we're going to go up to our filter option at the top of our Photoshop menu bar. And we are going to go to what is called the filter gallery. So go ahead and go down to filter gallery, and it's going to open up. Here's our picture right here on the left-hand panel. The panel in the middle is, there's several folders, and if you click on the arrow next to the folders, you can see that there are a lot of different filters that you can apply to a picture. The one we're going to use is the cutout filter. So I'm going to select cutout, and over on the right hand side you can make some tweaks or adjustments to the way that the cutout effect looks. So if you move your number of levels slider around, you can see it's going to add a lot more detail here in the picture. And I think the look that we're going for, we want some detail, but we really don't want too much. If we create too much detail, the next couple steps are going to be a pain in the butt, and it's going to take a long time. So I'm thinking, and if you go too low, then we're losing a lot of detail. So here I'm at 1, and you can see the difference between 1 and 3. So I'm going to leave mine around 3. Actually, I'm going to put mine to 4. Edge simplicity, if you move that around, I'll zoom in so you can see the difference here. So edge simplicity basically deals with your edges here, and it'll simplify your edges and kind of combine them all to smooth it out. And so I think I like probably 4 or 5 for mine. Edge fidelity, you can see what happens if I change that around. So it's really going to take all of our detail and just combine it into 2 or 3 shapes. And I don't want to do that because I want to see detail in her eyes. And so I think a good number for this one is probably going to be 3. So we'll just go with 3 for now. So once you have this adjusted to the way that you like, then you're going to click OK. And it's going to apply this cutout effect to our picture. So now the next step comes where we are going to use our magic wand tool and our quick selection tool to select the different shades of gray and change them into a different color. So I'm going to start with my magic wand tool. The magic wand tool, when you click on it, it's going to select everything of that same shade or same color. So as we go through and we color this image, this is going to speed up the process. The quick selection tool will let you draw a selection around the pixels that you want to edit. And just to quickly explain what pixels are, if I zoom in all the way to this image, you can see these individual squares right here. And that's what pixels are. A photograph is made of millions and millions of pixels or individual squares that contain color information, contrast, light information, all sorts of things like that. So when you zoom in, you see all the individual pixels. When you zoom out, what you get is a photograph. So that's what pixels are. So again, the quick selection tool will let you select groupings of pixels at a time, whatever you want. The magic wand tool is going to select all pixels that have similar pixel information. All right, so that's a lot of information I'm throwing at you. I'm doing a lot of talking. Now we can get down to business and we can start coloring the different shades of gray that we have in our picture here. So what I'm going to do is zoom in, and for me it's Command plus, which you don't have the Command key. You do have the Control key, so you're going to hit Control plus to zoom in or Control minus to zoom out. So I'm going to zoom in, and the first section I'm going to select is this lighter part of her face. So with my magic wand tool, I'm just going to click on that shade of gray, and you can see it just selected everything of that same shade. Now it didn't select everything of that same shade on her face, so what I'm going to do is hold my shift key down, and that's going to allow me to add to my selection that I just created. And I'm going to click here in those same shades of gray that is scattered throughout the picture. So I'm going to come down here to her neck. And what it ended up doing was selecting her whole neck, which is going to be a bit of a problem. So if I hold my Alt key down and click again, it will deselect that particular area. Excuse me. Excuse me. All right. All right. I'm telling you, whatever I have is a mixture between the swine flu and malaria. I've had them both, and this is exactly what it feels like. So I hope you guys do not get this. Alright, so the neck part is not doing what I want it to right now. So I'm going to come back to this later. I'm just going to hold my Alt Option key down, and I'm going to deselect this area. Oops, sorry about that, guys. I don't want to deal with it right now. So I'm just scanning my picture to make sure there aren't any lighter color areas that I need to get. Once I have these selected, I'm going to come up here to my color panel, and you can either select colors from your swatches by clicking inside this box. You can move this arrow up and down the color scale, or you can go over here to swatches, which is what I'm going to do. And if you scroll down to the bottom, these are all your default preset colors. I'm going to choose the light brown, or if you hover your mouse over it, it'll tell you what color it is, pale warm brown. I'm going to choose that color to fill in here in this light shade of gray. Or if you want to do a little bit lighter color, you can come over here to pale cool brown, whatever you want to do. All right, so once I have this area selected, I'm going to go over here to my paint bucket tool. And if you don't see your paint bucket tool, click and hold your mouse on that square. It might be hiding. So we're going to choose paint bucket tool. And I'm going to move my mouse over the top of the picture. And I am going to click once, and it's going to take that whole area that I just selected, and it is going to fill that in with the color that I chose, just like that. So I'm just going to demonstrate by doing her face. I think you guys will get the idea by the time I'm done. I'm going to go back to my magic wand tool. To deselect this line, hit Control D on your keyboard, and that will deselect the selection that you made. Now I'm going to go select the next shade of gray, and again I'm going to hold my Shift key down and select those areas that I want to paint a different color, like so. Alright, so I think I've got a majority of it. And you guys are probably going to want to take a little bit more time than I am in doing this. But again, right now, I'm struggling to get through the day. And so I'm doing this fairly quickly. Alright, so I've got this area selected. Let me see if I can get... Yeah, actually that works. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pick the next shade of brown. Go to my paint bucket tool, and I'm going to click in all those areas like so. In terms of Photoshop skill, this is pretty basic. So for those of you who've never taken a Photoshop class, you might be a little overwhelmed in the beginning, and that's normal. But if you are willing to be patient with it and just persevere through it, it'll get a lot easier for you. It might just take a little bit of time. So just know that that is somewhat of a normal situation for beginning Photoshop users, is to be a little bit overwhelmed. There are a lot of tools, there's a lot of functions, there's a lot of different things you can do, but being overwhelmed is normal. By the time we get through the end of the semester, you guys will be pretty proficient in Photoshop, which is awesome. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to select all of the different shades of gray, and I am just going to color those different shades of brown. So with this, you know, we want to be pretty accurate to skin tone. We're not doing any sort of special effects to this picture. The background, we're going to color a different color. And, you know, we can mess around with different colors there. But for this portrait, we want to keep it as accurate as we can. So I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to go select and paint those areas. So I think hopefully by now you guys are getting the idea of what we're going to do to take this image from a grayscale portrait to actually choosing what colors we're going to paint this ourselves. Alright, so for now I'm just going to zoom out. I'm going to hit Control minus on my keyboard. Control D will deselect my selection. And you can get a pretty good idea here of how we've started to take this image in grayscale and paint it our own colors using the paint bucket tool, the magic wand tool, and our different color swatches. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the actual poster I started creating just for the sake of time. And you all can see that here I have my portrait that I colored. I got most of it, most of the areas colored. I need to do a little bit of work on there. Now, I added a new layer, and down here at the bottom of your layers window, this is your new layer icon. So go ahead and click on that, and it will add a layer 2. Now this should be our background layer. So again, if you double click on the words, you can rename it background layer. This is the layer that I'm actually going to paint red. So I'm going to go up here to my swatches, choose a red color, and with my background layer highlighted, you'll see it's selected because it's in a lighter gray. With it highlighted or selected, I'm going to go to my paint bucket tool and click once, and it is going to fill that layer with the color I selected. Now, because my background layer is on top of my portrait, you can't see my portrait. So I'm going to click and drag my mouse and drop the layer right underneath my portrait. And now you can see that you can see your portrait because it's on top of your solid background layer. I think I actually like this magenta color a little bit more than the red, so I'm going to stay with this. If you want to turn your layers or hide, if you want to turn them on and off or hide them, you can click on the eyeball next to the layer and it will hide that layer. Now you'll only be able to see the layer if it's the layer on top of other layers, so just keep that in mind. Alright, so what I did was I selected my Angela Davis layer and I hit Control T on my keyboard. This will bring up our transform box. And again, I held my shift key down and I drug the corner of the picture in and out. And I just made mine a little bit smaller so that when I put my text over the top, I've got some space for text. And you can always go back to your layers and resize them at any time. So, so the last part we'll do after our image is colored and we've got a background color, we're going to drop in some text. So down here at the bottom of our toolbar are our color swatches. Now here you'll see two small squares, black and a white, and if you click on that, it will default your colors back to black and white. This little double arrow right here will switch your white to the foreground, your black to the background, and vice versa. So I actually want to type my words in white. So I'm just going to make sure that the white is in the foreground by clicking on these double arrows here. And then I'm going to go to my type tool. So once I have my type tool selected, you can come up here and this is your tool options bar. So every tool is going to have a different set of options. You can see as I click on different tools, you can see different options up there. And right here is where you can choose different font styles. And here on the right, it'll give you a preview of what that style looks like. I actually like this American typewriter, so I'm going to choose that. You can play around with different font styles later on if you want. I'm going to set my font to 72 points, and I'm just going to come over and click one time, and you'll see a flashing cursor here, and this is just showing you where your cursor is. So I'm just going to begin typing black and hit enter, history month. And if I come over here to my move tool, I can then click and drag my text over to my document. Now, obviously, it didn't type it in white like I wanted it to. So I'm going to go back over to my type tool, and I'm going to click right on top of one of the letters and highlight it. And that's because I also didn't have white set up here. So I'm going to click on that color box, and with my mouse, I'm just going to click in the top left corner, and it's going to change those letters, like so. All right, so now that I have my text on here, I can hit Control T, and that is going to allow me to resize my text. So again, I'm going to hold my Shift key down, and I'm going to resize my text. What I don't like that's happening right now is that I have a big space in between my text. I don't like that at all. So I'm gonna go highlight my text, and if I come up here to my options bar and click on this option right here, what I need to do is I need to adjust the space in between my lines. So here, if you hover your mouse over this option, this is what we call the leading. So we're going to adjust the leading, and if you click and drag your mouse to the left or to the right, then it will adjust the leading, which is the space in between the lines for you. Alright, so I think this looks a lot better. Up here is either just center text. This one is right align. And let me go back to left align so you can see what that looks like. Left align looks like this. So each of these letters are aligned to the left margin. Alright, so far so good. I'm going to hit again Control T. I'm going to resize this just a little bit. And I'm going to hit enter. And that is going to get rid of the transform box around my text. I don't need this panel open anymore, so if you click on the double arrows here, it'll hide it. And the last thing I'm going to do for now is I'm going to come up here to our blending modes. So right now I have my Black History Month text layer selected. I'm going to come up here, and these are all different blending modes. So what these do is they blend your current layer that's selected in with the layers below it. I think I'm going to pick, actually I kind of actually like this soft light version. So I'm going to pick that. I kind of actually like that. So I'm going to pick soft light. Your opacity to the right of that, if you move that slider to the left or to the right, is going to make that text more or less see-through to the layer below it. I actually am going to keep my opacity at 100 for now. All right, so we kind of have the basics laid out of our poster. Maybe I might add a quote, an Angela Davis quote. I might add a shape box behind Black History so that it helps the text stay out, or stand out rather. There's a couple different things we can do with this, but this is pretty much the basic tools in Photoshop you can use to take a photo and turn it into a pretty cool looking poster. So for now, we're going to stop here, and I think this might take you guys a couple days to get through, and by then I should be back. So good luck following along with this video. I hope it's clear. If you have any questions, let me know. If you're in third period or fourth period, ask the TAs. They should be able to help get you unstuck. They're pretty good with Photoshop. And always use the rewind button if you need to hear what I had to say again. And hopefully I'll see you guys in a couple days.